Hello. I think we're live. I think this is working. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Voicebites. Welcome. This is our second live stream. I'm really excited to be doing one of these again. And last week, or the week before, I had Jodie Steele. And this week, I'm joined by Nadim Naaman, who, if you guys don't know, he's an actor, singer, voiceover artist. You've been all over doing loads of different shows, haven't you? You've done Phantom. You've done, what else have you done? Sound of Music. You've done Titanic.
You know better than I do.
Well, I've been trying to, I've been looking at it. Nadim told me a bit about what he's been doing. I've just been in awe about it because I'm like, oh my gosh, you're very talented. He also wrote a musical as well. So, and as I said, you're a voiceover artist.
Yeah.
So we've got the same voiceover agent.
We do.
Which is why we're here today.
In the office.
In the office. Very
yeah,
lovely
it's
office.
a nice office.
Yeah. But you've just got so many talents.
Thank you. Thanks for having me along. I think this is a very cool thing because voiceovers are like, well, you're in a booth behind a microphone. You're not a face, you're a voice. Yeah. So just the idea of getting to know people and having a chat about everything is very appealing.
Oh, definitely.
So, thanks for having me along.
That's all right. No worries. I found that I never really met many voiceover artists. I think I've only ever met one by chance out and about. But you just never, you meet lots of actors, okay, especially in London.
Yes.
But just voiceover artists, never really meet them.
Yeah, we're like mysterious.
Exactly. So tell me a bit about voiceovers. Let's start with that. Because how did you get into voiceovers and how long ago was it?
So I remember being at drama school and I shared a flat with a guy who was at Mount View. I was at the Royal Academy of Music and my best friend at the time, he came home and he played me this reel that he had made, and I was just like blown away by it. It's like my best friend sounding like he was reading an advert in a documentary, and I was just really impressed. I was like, I need to get one of those done. How did you do it? And then he talked me through the process, and he mentioned the name Marina Calderoni, who was a visiting member of staff at Mount View, and she worked for a company called Crying Out Loud. So I immediately got those contact details. And then a few months later, I was in my first West End job, which was The Sound of Music. And I worked with an actress who had already worked with Crying Out Loud. And in particular, Simon Cryer, who is now our agent. And I was then like even more inspired to make that call because there were then two contacts basically recommending the same person. So I went to Simon and had the same process with Marina, got my reel put together brilliantly. They picked material for me that they thought would suit me and made my first reel. And so this was in 2007, 13 years ago. And then a couple of years later, Simon set up Damn Good Voices and we had a chat. And I've been with them ever since. Wow. So yeah, gosh, it's funny because it feels like it's not that long ago, but it really is that much more than a decade. It's
well, time flies.
Yeah,
when you're enjoying doing voiceovers. Did you find that it was quite scary doing it? Did you have any training up until that point, or were you kind of like, oh, I've got a nice voice, I can give it a go?
Yeah, I think it was more like an ignorance is bliss type thing. Like I'd always had confidence in my dialogue skill as an actor, just because I've always found sight reading quite easy, and I think that might be because I was an English literature student at university. I did a lot of practical work, and I'd done a lot of teaching and tutoring and stuff on the side. So speaking publicly and reading in front of people were all things I was quite used to. So I knew that I wouldn't have a problem with that side of it, but I was totally ignorant about the technical side of it and what makes a good voiceover artist or what makes a good voiceover. And that was all stuff I had to learn on the job. But the nice thing is that unlike in a theatre or an audition environment, you're on your own. Like you're locked away in a booth with a pair of headphones on, and there's a couple of friendly voices behind the glass, but essentially it's a very personal thing. And that felt to me like a much safer space to learn a new skill than, I don't know, in a dance class in front of 30 students who are all judging you and making, making decisions about whether or not they think you're only good, and that sort of environment at the time was what I was used to. So I quite liked voiceovers, felt quite peaceful and like a bit of an escape from the theatre scene.
No, definitely. And you touched on sight reading. I remember one of my first sessions, I think my very first voiceover was with our agent, Simon. I remember he said to me about sight reading because it was my first time doing it. It was a massive, well, we'll talk about this. It was with Funtech and very technical, like pages and pages of technical information. So you couldn't like rehearse the script beforehand. You could read through it maybe, but you couldn't remember it. And I remember him telling me that with sight reading, like how to soften your gaze and sort of read ahead a bit, and how musicians or singers find it a lot easier than non-singers. And I'm not a singer, I can't read music. Did you find that wasn't, well, you said it's a transferable skill, but how, in what way was it a transferable skill? Because I'm really interested to know that.
I think you touched on it already, which is the thing about having to be quite wide-eyed and with a soft gaze, and you're always a couple of bars ahead on a piece of music. And you have to decide when's the right time to turn the page so you're ready to start playing the next one. And that means you're memorizing the last couple of bars before the page turn.
That's such a skill, though.
Or at least like trying to memorize the key bits.
You say it like it's so easy, like, you're just a couple of bars ahead, but that's so tough.
Yeah, it is. But I guess like spoken word, reading music or sight singing is just something that you develop over many years of practice. And I suppose I'm very fortunate that I was just thrown into music as a kid. And the one thing I would say is that music is probably a bit harder because you, as well as lyrics, you're also looking at notes, and you're looking at time signature, and you're looking at a rhythm, a very specific rhythm that you have to follow. So it's a bit more of a multitasking thing, whereas with word and voiceover, you've got that freedom of interpretation. And you're deciding when to breathe, you're deciding when to speed up or slow down, and you're not following a conductor or anything like that. So it's like the best of both worlds in a way. But I think that being a musician does get you used to lots of things that are parallel in the voiceover world, including being in a studio. It sort of feels a bit more familiar.
Do you find it was, I asked Jodie about this, about the difference between being on a West End stage and like having to project your voice. Even if you are mic'd, I guess you still have to use your diaphragm a lot more, whereas in the voiceover booth, you're not doing that at all. It's very intimate, picks up everything. Did you find that was hard, or did you find that an easy transition?
I found it hard at first. I found it hard to sort of know that we were rolling for a take and that you are performing, but not performing, as it were. Like we're so used to flipping into that sort of, I'm speaking to a large room now.
And very good voice.
But if I did that in the booth, it would sound terrible. So it was a very bizarre feeling at first to literally speak at that distance. But on the flip side, that's taught me quite a lot about how you might speak if you were doing TV or film, or you were acting in a more intimate scene with somebody, and not worrying about hitting the back of a room with your voice. It feels more real.
No, definitely. Did you find as well, so talking about Funtech, that we both did that was a very sort of, it wasn't a commercial, it was a sort of internal, very instructional, very technical. Do you do lots of those sorts of things? What type of voiceovers do you do?
I sort of found my way into that world quite a lot. So just to add to what Joel said, like these Funtech voiceovers are like online courses for teenagers and children who want to learn a new skill, such as how to edit a movie, or how to design a computer game, or how to just get better at their computer skills, coding. Basically, how to become a billionaire by inventing the latest cool app. And we get these scripts that are between 30 and 40 pages long. And as Joel said, we just have to go. And sometimes they're quite fun and easy and light to read because they're for younger kids. And then other times they are really wordy, really scientific, and they feel like you've done a 3-hour exam and you come out of them.
Or you start, if it's like a 3-hour session, you start the first hour really happy and like, this is what we're going to do today. And then by the end of it, you're a bit more monotone. And
totally.
Engineers having to say, can you just have the same energy you had at the start?
Listen back to what we did 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
So you get better at learning how to sound enthusiastic and give energy to instruction. And I think that kind of work breeds that kind of work.
Yeah.
I think in the first few years of doing this, I was doing a lot more variety. I was doing a lot of educational stuff, English foreign language tapes for universities and schools. I've done some commercials. I've been a voiceover for Red Bull Formula One on their YouTube channel, really random stuff.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite ones last year was I was the voiceover for this product that was like a spray that you sprayed on clothes instead of washing your clothes.
Well,
so it was
weird.
like, you had to sound really enthusiastic about being lazy and not washing your clothes.
Yeah.
But everyone has been fun and different, and I don't know, I just feel like it's really healthy as an actor to do less of the acting voiceover stuff and do more real, what I would call real world material, because I think it's the polar opposite of what I do on stage. I'm always storytelling for a living, and don't get me wrong, I'd love to do things like audiobooks or computer games or animation or whatever, but that's much closer to what I do the rest of the time anyway. So I've quite embraced the fact that the commercial stuff and the sort of instructions and educational stuff has meant that my voiceover work is very different to what I'm doing elsewhere.
Oh, definitely. I suppose it's more refreshing as well that you also get booked, like obviously for your storytelling and all those things and your skill as an actor and a singer, but you also then just get booked as Nadim for your voice to do these things. Yeah. Is that what you like best about voiceovers, or like what do you like about it that is different to acting?
I think that is definitely one of the things I like about it the most. It's you being hired for you rather than you being hired for how you are being somebody else. Yeah. And it's making use of a skill set that you have that feels much more like it's in your own hands. Of course, there are directors and there are creatives from all kinds of clients who have specific ideas of how they want a voiceover, but in general, they book you because they like your voice and they've picked you for a reason. So then they trust you, and there's an element of collaboration that's more equal. Yeah. Whereas as an actor, of course, there's collaboration, but you're there because you fit somebody's vision of how a certain role should be played, but you're following their instruction and their guidance. So yeah, it just feels like a very, whenever you get booked for voiceover, for me, it feels like a very satisfying feeling, because it's a reminder that you've done the hard work already. You've got your reel up, you've got demos up, you've got tapes up, and people are then coming to find you.
Did you find the first time you ever got booked for a voiceover and you didn't have to audition, that was the best feeling ever? I was so confused when I got a booking for a job. I thought it was an audition, and I was so confused. And I think it might have even been Chris who's sat over there that was like, no, it's a job.
You've got a job.
And I was like, but I didn't even audition. I was so confused.
You're exactly right. Feeling. And that's it. It's like you're given an opportunity because you're deemed worthy of it already. Whereas in theatre, you're given an opportunity to prove you might be worthy of the opportunity. And you might have to do that 5 or 6 times and still not get it. So it's a lovely little boost.
Definitely.
To life in general.
No, it is. I should probably say some voiceovers you do have to audition for, but some of them you don't. So it's nice when you don't. But
there's always the big one that got away.
Definitely.
I obviously I won't name names, but I remember one Christmas a few years ago getting very close to a campaign for a mobile phone network provider. That involved auditioning. That involved going in twice and doing a variety of things. Wow. And I just remember going home from that thinking, oh my God, if I got that. Didn't get it. But it was, in that situation, it was actually nice to audition because you knew they were taking you seriously, because it's a more rare occurrence to have to audition.
And the fact that you were seen twice, you have to take that as a victory and be like, they've seen me, they know what I do. So that is good.
Yeah.
So moving on to more of the acting side, because I know that's probably what you do more of than voiceovers, isn't it? And that's what you're more established in, I suppose, because you've been doing it for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
How long has it been?
I left drama school 13 years ago.
13 years ago.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about how you got into that, and also I want to hear about how you got into Phantom as well.
Okay.
Because I know a bit about the story behind it.
Yeah. So I went to university first. I did an English and theatre degree at Warwick University. Okay. And the main reason I went to university first was, first of all, I'm really bought into the idea of just having the life experience of being an undergraduate. And I believed in the idea that at 18, you're not ready to just get out there and try and start your career. And I understand that more now as someone in their mid-30s watching young actors who can be the most talented person, but cannot necessarily access the range of emotions required because they just haven't had the life experience. Yeah. And particularly because many plays and musicals are touching on things like loss and death and all kinds of traumas that tend to come to us slightly later in life. Yeah. It's quite hard to find a young actor who can recreate that level of trauma on stage without having lived a bit first. So I have no regrets about starting 3 years after a lot of my colleagues. Yeah. Went to uni, had a great time, and lived a bit and made mistakes and learnt things and had a laugh. And then I applied for a postgrad course at the Royal Academy of Music in musical theatre. And that was the first time that I'd really made the decision that I was going to give musical theatre a go. Up to that point, for me, acting and singing had always been separate things. So I was doing as many plays as I was doing musicals. I did more plays at school and university than musicals. And on the other side, I was like in the choir and sang jazz with a big band. And so they were two separate things. And then suddenly at uni, it was like, oh, it makes sense to fuse these two things together. So I auditioned for this course and I got in. And it was an amazing course. It was incredible. So busy. We would be busy basically 9 till 9 every day. But it's like 32 weeks and then it's done. And you have an agent and you've done a showcase and you've been in a show and people have come to watch you. And
it's like a whirlwind.
Yeah, total whirlwind. Knackering, but really satisfying. And so I was 21, turning 22 when I finished that course. And a couple of weeks before I graduated, a casting director came to do a masterclass with us on audition technique. And I was very inspired by that. And after maybe a week or so after, I wrote him a letter. And I just said, please, can you see me for your forthcoming production of Hairspray? And it's David Greenwald's casting director. And Hairspray was coming to London for the first time. It was a big thing, it was a huge success on Broadway. Everyone was very excited. So I wrote him a letter asking if I could be seen for it. And I didn't hear back. So I was like, okay, fine. But back in those days, everyone wrote letters all the time. Yeah. We sent hard copies of our headshots in black and white and hard copies of our CV. And these things are all considered prehistoric now. But we were still doing that in 2007. And it didn't happen. The audition didn't happen. But about a month later, he called me in for The Sound of Music. Oh, cool. So because I wrote to him, he had the thought process, Nadim isn't right for this, but I do think he's right for that. So let's get him in.
That's really cool.
And I got it. I got The Sound of Music. So that was my first West End job. And it's sort of it's genuinely one of those things that one thing does tend to lead to another. I used to have all these plans and aspirations to sort of tick roles off the wish list, or had really clear ideas of what I was going to be in and what I wasn't going to be in. And it all went out the window in that first 18 months, 2 years of my career, because I realized that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
All the way through drama school, I'd been pushed as a like poppy singer, high tenor. Like the material they threw at me was very contemporary. And now everyone goes, "Oh, Nadim, like he can't sing modern. He's like a legit singer. He does old school stuff." And that's only because Phantom happened.
Okay. Yeah.
But before Phantom, like nothing I was doing was how I sing now and how people perceive me to be now. Because one thing just led to another.
Yeah.
And Phantom has been like the landmark moment, I guess. Similar story. I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter.
Was this after it was popular? It wasn't the done thing as much.
It wasn't the done thing as much. So I did, after Sound of Music finished, I then had my first experience of unemployment, which was tough at the time, but really, really valuable. Like I'd been in the West End for 18 months. I got promoted to the role. So I understudied in the first year and then I got promoted to the role for the second contract. And I literally thought, this is amazing. My life's amazing. How lucky am I? How lucky am I? And I was going to auditions for things towards the end of that contract, but nothing was landing. And I then went 9 months without another job. And during that time, I had to, first of all, come to terms with the fact that that's how this business is, that you can go from being a part of the Palladium to being unemployed for 9 months.
Yeah.
Fantastic that I learned that at that age rather than 5 or 6 years later when I might have unraveled even more. And I used that time to develop my other interests, like teaching and writing voiceovers. So it was a really good period of time. And then I started to get some more work booked in, worked regionally a little bit, did a panto, started doing a bit more like session singing, backing vocal type work as well. And after a couple of years, I was just frustrated that I wasn't being seen for Phantom of the Opera because it was one of my dream shows and I really wanted to be seen for it. And I felt like I could at least do a good job in an audition. So I wrote another letter, which I still have. I found it quite recently. And the letter worked. Again, I got an audition and got cast that summer as an understudy for Rolf. So this was in 2010.
Okay.
And I remember they said to me, like, you are too young, you're too boyish to play this role, but we think you should come and be an understudy and learn it because we think you might have a future in this role. Cool. And like to hear that was amazing.
That's so good.
And this is a part that I'd watched as a teenage boy and been like, that looks cool. I want to do that. Like when he jumped off the bridge into the smoke, into the dry ice on the floor, I was just like,
I want to do
that. Yeah, it happened, and they were right. They were true to their word. Like I had a journey with that show and with that role that spanned on and off, spanned 10 years.
Wow.
So I was the second cover, then I got promoted to first cover, then I auditioned for the role, and they said, "You're still too young. Please go away and we'll see you in a few years." And I was really gutted at that time.
Yeah, I bet.
Gutted. Because I'd been in the theatre for 2 years and I was working my way up and I loved everybody there. But they were right. I went away for 3 years, did some really cool shows, met some really cool people. And then 3 years later, they believed the time was right. And they said, would you be interested in coming back to take on the role? And I did have to audition. So I had that adrenaline and that nervous thing. But I later found out that my audition was actually like a workshop. I went in and they filmed me working with one of the Christines at the time. And they sent that video to Cameron McIntosh and Andrew Weather. And they didn't see anybody else that year, which I didn't know because I was in Canada doing Titanic at the time. And my agent, who's a complete legend, my acting agent, he found out that I had the part, that he decided to fly to Canada to my opening night and tell me face to face.
Wow.
So
did you like that? Or was that...
Oh no, I absolutely loved
that's
it.
Good.
I just thought it was a complete like demonstration of how classy a man he is.
Yeah.
So he turned up at the end of the show and he's like, "I've got you a glass of champagne. Congratulations, great show tonight." And then he just said, "So Cameron and Andrew have signed off on you as Raoul." I literally spat my champagne everywhere. And it was a really important moment, that, because it was my first lead in the West End, and I was 29. So it was like the culmination of that first chapter of my career.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that working your way up and going through the system is the most satisfying thing out there.
Yeah.
And I've realized that that's how I feel about everything, basically, in life. Not rushing anymore, not chasing too much, and just enjoying the here and now without always wondering about what's coming next.
Yeah.
That would be the advice I'd give my younger self. Like, stop chasing and just savor what you've got right now, because it will probably lead to something else, even if it's not for 2 or 3 years.
Definitely.
Someone, if you do a good job and if you're nice to work with, someone out there will go, what about Nadim? What about Joel? Let's get him back. He was really good for us. Yeah. And you know, you have so many knockbacks as an actor, and you have so many rejections, but that was a perfect case study of how you can join a show at the start of your career, be a second cover, and then 5 years later be playing the role. And it then transpired that I got asked to go and do it again in Greece. A few years later, which has just happened before COVID. So yeah, the journey of it has been really significant. But the thing I'm most proud of is that it started by joining the ensemble and being the second cover, and just having to be patient and having to prove what I can do and
definitely
see it develop.
Well, it must be so much more satisfying to have done that, rather than, because you'd think as a young actor you might be like, no, I just want to be offered the role straight off the bat. Actually, since you worked your way in there, it must have been gutting not getting it for 3 years and knowing you've worked that far and you didn't quite get it. But as you said, it all has a way of working.
It does, out, so. and it makes you realise that you're not being fobbed off. Like you're not being told things for the fun of it. Like if someone says to you, "We think you're too young, go away for a few years and come back," and then they follow that through, it means that when you next get rejections and you next get feedback as to why you've not got jobs, you have faith in that system, and you understand that everyone out there is just doing their job and they are all doing the right thing by their production that they're working on. And it teaches you to not take things as personally and not cling on to the rejections. Whereas as a young graduate, they sting. They sting for a long time, and you can't get your head around it in the same way. So I would definitely have a chat with my younger self and say, don't worry about the things that knock you like that as much as I did.
If only we could do that. Rejections and being out of work are a natural part of it. Is that when you wrote Broken Wings? Was it in a period of being out of work that you did that?
The beginnings of Broken Wings formulated whilst I was in Phantom. But what happened was I left Phantom 2017. So I had spent a year, my second year as well. I got a little keyboard in my dressing room and took my guitar in, and I used to sort of write in between shows on matinee days, or go in an hour early and sit there and just brainstorm some ideas. So it was bubbling, and the conversations about the show coming to life were taking place. But it did reach a point where I knew I was leaving Phantom, and I then booked a very short job up in the Lake District, doing some Jeeves and Wooster stuff, which was hilarious, with Alan Ayckbourn. But I knew that was a 1-month contract. But then I had to have a conversation with my agent that said, like, for the next 9 months, I want to just focus on Broken Wings, because I feel like I've spent so much time on it. I want to give it my full attention, just for like at least half a year. And he was really supportive of that. He had no issues with it whatsoever. So the bulk of Broken Wings did happen in a period of time where I wasn't doing anything else. And then as the years have passed, I've got a little bit better at being able to do it parallel. And now the show's up and running, and we've got our creative team in place, and I don't feel like I have to be as present with it. So the most recent time we did it, when the show went to Dubai, everyone else went out there a week before me and just got on with it.
Oh, that's good.
And then I just turned up for the show week. And that was the first time that had happened, and it was a really good experience because it taught me that the ship sails without me there.
Oh, definitely.
And that's really healthy.
And wearing all those hats must be exhausting as well.
Yeah.
So,
especially the hat that just means you care so much. That's the one that's hardest to let go of. Like the fact that it's my passion project, it's my baby. Like, it was really healthy for me to entrust other people to take care of it without me being there. And I'm sure at some point soon the show will happen somewhere without me there at all because it won't work. Like, I'll be doing something else. And I do really look forward to the day where I can just watch it.
That would be nice.
It's never happened.
Really? Not at all?
I've still not seen my own show.
Wow. That's great.
So,
I was actually going to ask you about that, though, about writing it and starring in it. Was that easy for you, or was it really difficult? And did it come from a place of wanting to write yourself a role that you really wanted to do? Or?
It's a really good question. The short answer is no. When I wrote Broken Wings, I didn't envisage myself in it at all because the two main characters, well, it's actually the same character, but you've got an 18-year-old version of him and a 40-year-old version of him. And the older version of Gibran is the narrator. And then you go back in time to when he was a teenager. And when I was writing, I was 30. So I was like, well, I'm too old to play him, and I'm too young to play him. But that's fine, because then I just won't be in it. But the closer we got to the show being ready and the more development we did with it, the producer was just like, you have to be in this because you're the only like Lebanese musical theatre actor in London. And we are opening a show in London and marketing it to Lebanese people. If you're not in it, they're all going to be really confused. They're all going to just say, why weren't you in it? So we made the decision for me to play the older version, the narrator. And that kind of worked because I spent the whole show isolated. Spent half of the show at a desk and the other half of the show walking around and narrating to the audience. So it was like I was in it, but also detached. And it meant I got to watch all the other rehearsals. So I was present in the room for questions about script and character. But by being in it, I was also a member of the company. We were all listening to the director and the musical director. So I think it was the right balance of being hands-on with it, but also being a passenger. And so it worked out for the best, I think. I'm not sure how good it was for my mental health.
No, I can't. I imagine it was very stressful.
Yeah, it was stressful. But I look back on it now, and without question, it's the single thing I'm most proud of. Because, I love what I do, but there's nothing more satisfying than creating something that's spawned in your brain and see it come to life in the field that you're passionate about. I love doing all the shows I've done. I've loved Phantom more than anything and loads of other jobs, but that's not the same. Being in a show that hundreds of other people have been in and that has been around for 20, 30, 40 years, like many of the best musicals have been, that's not the same as having an idea and seeing it come to life. And that will be how Andrew Lloyd Webber feels about Phantom of the Opera.
Definitely. Sounds his
baby.
Baby. No, it's true. And your little world's come to life. Hopefully we'll get to see it one day with you not in it. That sounds like it's not a compliment, but it is.
No, I'll take it.
Well, I think we have some questions. Through.
Look at the chat.
So this one, so this is like a fun one. You've drowned in the Titanic, fallen in love with a Maria, a Christine, a Svetlana, and a Florence, and defected from the Soviet Union. But which role still gives you goosebumps?
That question gave me goosebumps.
Beautiful question.
That's a really, really hard one. I'm actually going to go a bit left field with this. The role which still gives me goosebumps is a role that I didn't get paid to play. It's an amateur role. In my last year of university, I did a show called The Wild Party, which is by Andrew Lipper. And I played a character called Burrs. And Burrs is a nasty piece of work. And like I wouldn't have a hope in getting a casting for this role now, because
you're too nice.
Nobody in this business would even consider that that's the sort of thing that I would relish doing or be right for. But it was a university production, and they shaved all my hair off, and I played a psychotic, jealous, murdering, abusive clown in vaudevillian in New York from the 1920s, I think. And it was amazing. I got to play a complete loose cannon, and I relished every moment because it was so unlike everything else I've ever done. Yeah. And occasionally I listen to that soundtrack and think, oh my God, like, I wish I could play a role like that again. And that show happened the same week that I found out I got into drama school. Okay. So I remember coming home from the show one night and opening the post and having my acceptance letter. Yeah. So that whole week was just really special.
It's got the nice memories.
Yeah. That was a very cool time. But if I had to pick a role that I've done professionally, I would say nothing will beat when I played Anthony in Sweeney Todd and Stephen Sondheim was sat at my feet.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's Goosebumps.
That's very cool.
That's Goosebumps for the experience rather than the role. Okay. But nothing will top that. Like, I could retire now because I'm never going to have that experience again. We did this production in a pie shop. Okay. It was a really interesting and dark, immersive production. Yeah. And there were 32 seats in this pie shop in Tooting. And it was all lit by candlelight, and the orchestra was reduced to 3 instruments. Wow. And it went really well. And it ended up transferring into London and then to New York as well. But Stephen Sondheim heard about it, and he came over from New York to come to this pie shop in Tooting on our last night.
Stephen Sondheim in Tooting.
Yeah. And we were acting on the top of the tables and the work surfaces, and it was just a totally unique job. Come down the stairs for the opening of the show because we were all hidden up in the attic. And I clock within 10 seconds that Stephen Sondheim is sat at the table that I stand on to sing Joanna. Oh, no. My big number. And I spent the whole of the first half an hour of the show with a chest like this. Yeah,
I bet. Oh my God.
Like, totally dreamlike. But I got up and I sang the song, and it was our last night anyway. So we were all like emotional, and it was a weird one. And then got to the end of the song, the piano played the button, and he just started clapping really loudly, and I heard him say, "Bravo, bravo!" And literally my body was going like this. Oh my gosh. retire now. Yeah. That's not going to be topped.
That's incredible. So that was a literal goosebumps.
Literal goosebumps. Yeah.
That's amazing.
But that's a really good example of a cool job, because the money was terrible and people were going, "What? You're doing Sweeney Todd in a pie shop?"
Yeah, 30 people.
I'm doing the one at the ENO, which has got an audience of 2,000, And we were all like, yeah, we felt like the inferior little cousin on the side. But it was an interesting job, and people were fascinated by it. And it was a good lesson in sometimes go with your gut and take a risk. Do the interesting work. Don't just do the big work, because the big work, doesn't have the same soul necessarily as something as inventive or as playful as someone having the idea to do Sweeney Todd in a pie and mash shop.
Yeah, and you won't be able to stand on Stephen's table and sing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very good.
Oh, cool. It's a question for me to ask. Joel, do you sing? And if you do or could, who would you want to play in a musical and why?
Oh my gosh. No, well, I can sing in tune, but not on my own. I did musicals at school. Yeah. And the director told everyone I had the highest score of all the boys. But that was before my voice broke. And then my voice broke, ruined everything. And so I'm a good ensemble. Okay. But I've never been cast.
And do you have a favourite musical?
Fiddler on the Roof is my favourite musical.
Brilliant.
So I feel like a dream role when I'm like 50 would be Tevye.
Perfect.
In Fiddler on the Roof.
I can see it.
Thank you. I've been working on the bit. Okay, we've got another question. Musicals have played a huge part in your career so far, and I guess probably will for a while to come, but do you have the desire to play non-singing parts too? Because I know at university, as you said, you were doing that.
Yeah. Definitely. I think that musicals being the bulk of my career so far goes back to that thing I mentioned earlier about one thing leading to another. I applied for regular drama courses as well when I applied to the Royal Academy of Music, and I would have taken either option. I just loved acting, and I've always believed that musicals and plays should be treated the same. And I think the best directors of musicals are the ones who treat musicals like their play scripts, and they just break the lyrics down as if you're having dialogue with somebody. So I would love to do some more non-speaking roles. I've done a few plays, but it's really hard to get momentum in straight theatre because the casting directors see the musicals on your CV and they just make an assumption straight away. So even though I've got like the National Theatre hidden in there, it's not one of the last 3 or 4 jobs. So they often won't even get that far back.
That's a shame.
And they might even look at where I trained and see Royal Academy of Music and make an assumption about my acting based on that. So it is really tough, but I'd like to think at some point it's just about getting that one job by chance that enables you to get another audition that enables you to then go on a bit of a run. And so hopefully that will happen at some point. But I'm just so grateful that I have worked. And often my friends who are straight actors, I hate that phrase, but I just have to use it because that's how people do it. They often struggle even more to get castings because it's so much more competitive for them. If you can sing, or if you're unlike me, you can dance as well, you're suddenly really employable in a variety of things. If you're just acting and you haven't quite got that breakthrough, I think you're really up against it. So I'm very grateful for what's happened to me, and I don't really have any desire to. I'm not going to be one of those people who suddenly goes, right, that's it, I'm not doing musicals anymore. I don't really buy into that. And most people who say things like that end up doing musicals again. They do.
These things have a way of working themselves out. Another question. So as an actor, singer, writer, and voiceover, you clearly have many strings to your bow. How important do you think it is that young talent think wider from the onset to help ensure access to a wider range of work? That's interesting, because I feel like most young people are like, this is why I just want to sing, or I just want to do acting, and they don't think about all the other assets. Not assets, what's the word? Can't think of the other branches of acting, like voiceovers as well. So
I think it's a really, really good question. And I think that with hindsight, it's easy for me to say yes is the answer to that. But I also remember what it felt like when everything was just beginning. And I remember feeling like I didn't want to be a jack of all trades. I wanted to be good at something. So I think the correct answer is probably somewhere in between the two. I think the correct answer is, stick within a chosen field, but be prepared to give anything within that field a go, and say yes to everything at the beginning, basically, within reason, and be treated well and work for nice people and be paid and, all that stuff. But I think there are far too many drama schools that don't teach their graduates about the realities of coming into this business. And there's one huge thing that never really gets spoken about, which is that as a student, you will play older roles. Like you can go through drama school always being the star because you're like a character actor or you're good at playing older. And then you leave drama school and they've got people of that actual age to play those roles. And you're a 22-year-old or a 21-year-old or whatever. And if you're, and that can be a shock to some people. You could be a 20-year-old with a really low voice and you've just played Sweeney Todd and Javert, and everyone's like, oh, you're amazing, you're going to walk into this business and here's an agent. But then suddenly you're 21 and there's 50-year-olds playing those roles in the business. So you can either bide your time for 20 years, or you can go, oh, okay, the real world isn't like drama school. So I need to get good at other things. And I think just for your sanity, for your mental health, you have to be prepared to try different fields within your profession. Working, even if it means working backstage, taking a job backstage, taking a job front of house, taking a job in a dance studio, teaching, get a teaching qualification, try writing, try learning an instrument or polishing up an instrument that you used to play but you haven't played for 10 years. Because all of these things will just mean you have more choice. And the worst thing about being in this business is feeling like everything's out of your hands. It's not a healthy way or a sustainable way to live your whole life, relying on other people to give you opportunities, waiting for the phone to ring. And I think that's the biggest difference in my life now to 10 years ago, is that I learned that if I wanted to be satisfied as a human being, not as an actor, just if I wanted to be a satisfied person, I needed to find ways to take control a bit more. And if they don't want to see me for something, fine. But I'm not going to sit around for 6 months anymore without, anything to do. Unless there's coronavirus.
That's your forced into it.
I've just become determined to put things on, write music, record things. Anybody can book a venue and put on a cabaret with 2 or 3 mates, and if you sell it well, you can make $1,000. Like, why not do that instead of just being miserable that you didn't get seen for that musical that your mates got seen for?
So you only end up getting more and more bitter, and it takes its toll on your mental health.
You put so much more pressure on the auditions, and the auditions become things that you kind of dread, because it's not even about getting the role, it's about getting the job. It becomes about, I need to get that job because I need to pay my rent, and I need to, and you sort of, then you're in it for the slightly wrong reasons. And yes, it's our livelihood, but it doesn't make you any less of an actor if you're doing something else, even if it means you're working in your local pub or just doing anything. A non-transferable skill. It's like it's just so much healthier. So much healthier.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Oof. What do you listen to when you're alone and on the move?
Well, you can answer this one. I don't even know if I
It's such a hard one, because I obviously, like, music is my life in a way. So sometimes I just don't want to listen to music when I'm doing nothing.
True. So do you listen to nothing? Do you have silence, or would you prefer podcasts?
I listen to podcasts. I listen to, I'll watch YouTube, just watch random stuff on YouTube, like fitness videos and nutrition and cooking videos. I'm a huge sports fan as well. Sport's my escapism, because I find that even when I watch dramas and films and things, sometimes I get quite into it in a critical way, like in a professional way. And sometimes I just don't want to do that. So I might just, catch up with something or an episode. Podcasts are big ones. I like listening to podcasts about well-being and mental health and sport as well. Things that will literally take me away from work. But if I was going to listen to music, it's really hard. I'm a big fan of, like, the classic rock groups from the past. Like, I just put on something like Fleetwood Mac and really enjoy it. Because that's the sort of thing I would just never come across in my career.
So you wouldn't listen to musicals. You haven't had that in your work life, do you?
I find myself listening to musicals a lot because I might be preparing for an audition or learning a role or learning songs for a concert. So I do have countless playlists of musical theatre, but I tend to spend so much time listening to them in a work mode that I'm just not.
You just can't when you're trying to.
That's relax. It. Like if I was on a flight on my way to a holiday. No. The one exception to that is Hamilton. I might listen to Hamilton. Because it's that good. Yeah,
it's true. I'm just trying to get into that now. I haven't seen it. But, well, I think we need to wrap this up now, because I could chat to you for ages, and I know that we've been going for a good while now, nearly an hour. So that's
that went very quickly.
That did go very quick. Well, it's a testament to how interesting you are to talk to. So thanks for chatting to me today.
Thanks for having me. Honestly, loved it.
Not at all, guys. Watch out for Nadim. We've got 3 different voice bites coming with him pre-recorded, giving his tips for voiceovers, plus loads of other talent as well. So if you haven't subscribed, please click subscribe. And yeah, check out Nadim's profile. It'll be linked down below. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.